Well, it's been a day that started with some action and some suspense and ended in just a stunning sense of tranquility. Because now that the herds of wildebeest have subsided a bit, all the other animals have started coming back onto the plains. Well, it is just before sunrise here in Kenya, and in my opinion that is the best time to start safari. Today we are heading out with no expectations. We're just going to see what the beautiful Masai Mara has in store for us, and of course enjoy some really great scenery, and I'm sure a lot of things along the way. Here are the two cheetah brothers we found a few episodes ago, and we have caught up with them right in the middle of a hunt. There's a herd of topi and hartebeest on the top of the ridge, and they are looking towards these cheetahs, but they haven't quite worked out what they are yet. I think they've seen movement, and although their eyesight is good, it'll be tough for them to pick out these two until they're much closer, which makes this long grass perfect for these cats. And with the breeze blowing, not only will their shape be broken up with the grass, but it'll help to disguise their movement and their scent as they creep up to these antelope. That one hartebeest is facing away. It doesn't have a clue as to what's going on. Oh, they're all running. The cheetah's really far though. Is it going to catch up? Oh, unlucky. A bit of a half-hearted try, but that could have easily been their second or even third attempt of the day. So while they head off into the thickets in search of potentially their fourth attempt, we are going to investigate further along the ridgeline. There's an eland bull here that has a bunch of vegetation stuck on his head. And I've seen this many times before with a number of different antelope species, especially impala, and I've seen it out here with the gazelles as well, where the male will thrash bushes, showing off his dominance and power to the females of the herd. And sometimes the plants get stuck. Whether he means for the plants to get stuck on his horns, I don't think we can be too sure of that. I know in some instances, some antelope will use mud to that same effect and is thought to make their horns appear bigger or longer. Either way, it'll fall off eventually. In the meantime, he seems very invested in this female. She had a bit of a phlegm and grimace going on earlier, probably just detecting the scent of the bull being ready to mate. But she's clearly not. He's having quite a rough time trying to persuade her that she is. But he'll stick close to her for the next few hours at least. Most likely the next few days, until she does become ready to mate. The last thing he needs is to miss his chance. But once they've mated, if she does conceive, it'll still be another 11 months or so before anybody will see her with a calf. So a little bit of patience on his part isn't such a bad thing. And lucky for him, the only predators that seem to be out and about today are those cheetah, and they will not be interested in taking on an animal as big as he is. So, as they say, he's got all the time in the world. But we don't, so we'll be continuing on our drive. These elephants are making their way down from the hilltop that they probably spent the night on, And it looks like there may be more than one herd here. This is pretty common, especially in areas where there's abundant vegetation to feed on, but eventually they'll split and move on. However, while they feed here, the herds will just try and keep each other as separate as possible. Their diet, although made up of many different plant species, will vary a lot depending on the time of the year and what's available. So now that the rains have been frequent in the Mara, the grasses have become really sweet and delicious. And that will end up forming the main part of their diet for the next few months or so. Another draw for these elephants to be here is that the grass is much softer to chew than other material that they would feed on, like tree bark. And these elephants are born with 6 sets of teeth that work on a kind of conveyor belt-like system, where every few years they will lose and replace a set until they reach around 30 years old, where their final set of teeth will come into place. They then have to maintain this final set for possibly another 30 years, because their average lifespan is about 60 or so years. So the softer the material they choose means the easier it is on their teeth, because it won't grind them down as much over time, and so potentially it could even mean they live a little bit longer. It's so lovely just to take a moment or two and listen to the sounds going on in the plains. These elephants are moving away, but there is a road just up ahead, so let's get there before they cross it. As much as I love spending time with elephant bulls, I really enjoy sitting with herds like this and just observing the dynamics that happen within them. And these herds are made up of almost all females and their young. So there may be a few very young bulls in the mix, but the majority will be female. And unlike the herd of eland, which have a dominant male overseeing everything, these elephants will be led by the oldest and most experienced female of the group, deemed the matriarch. And it's always one of the older females because they are the ones who have most of the knowledge that will have been passed down through the generations before it got to her. Things like where the best food and water sources are, what are the easiest pathways through the hillsides, and where are the safest places for them to be if they need to escape things like stormy weather or the wind. But I really enjoy watching the youngsters while the adults are feeding, because they're so often up to mischief with each other. There's quite a few tussling in and amongst the herd here, and some of them are highly entertained by the birds that have been flying through picking off insects. Oh, these elephants are headed straight for a herd of buffalo. Let's take the opportunity to try and reposition before those elephants disturb this buffalo herd. What a scene! Two of the big five, only a few meters apart. And the buffalo are getting a bit agitated, but I think it's because they can see the elephants are on their way. And it's not unusual for elephants to chase buffalo and other animals away from feeding grounds or water sources, just to try and keep the best spots for themselves. So these buffalo are almost preparing for the worst. They were sleeping just before we arrived, and now they're all up and moving about. But with so much grass around, I think it would really be a waste of energy for there to be any sort of confrontation between these two species. So, while it would be lovely to wait out the rest of the day here, there are some giraffes a little further on that, like these elephants, are also on the move. My favorite part of the Mara so far has to be just these iconic scenes of herds of animals spread out in these wide open spaces. There are so many giraffe here. And there must be something in the air today, because this male giraffe is up to the same nonsense that eland bull was. And he doesn't seem to be having much luck either. They were initially on the move, but it seems like they've all stopped out here on the plains, maybe to take a break from feeding in the shrubs, just to ruminate and take in the last bit of warmth from the sunshine before it starts to fade and the evening begins to settle over the Mara. But seeing these herds of animals out here today really gives you some perspective of how much this place changes once the migration starts to settle. Because now that the herds of wildebeest have subsided a bit, all the other animals have started coming back onto the plains. And it's not that they've gone very far. They've most likely just been on the outskirts and maybe up on the escarpment and in the hillsides a little bit more. But now that things are starting to go back to normal life without the wildebeest, they all have come back down into the grasslands. Well, it's been a day that started with some action and some suspense and ended in just a stunning sense of tranquility. There really is never a dull moment in this place.